services.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Need help with your accounts and tax work? Contact us today on 01908 692 380 and see how we can help.
Adam Accounting Services, friendly local accountants. Call us today on 01908 692 380.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Tax Update by Adam Accounting Services Limited. My name is Salman Makbul. I'm a Chartered Accountant, Director of Adam Accounting Services Limited. My company, Alhamdulillah, we've been operating for many years now, providing accounting and tax services within Milton Keynes and surrounding areas. You can find us on the internet. Just look up adamaccountingserviceslimited.com. First thing first, I wish you all Ramadan Kareem and pray that Allah accepts all of your ibadah. I'm doing a two-part segment on the tax updates and government help. This is continuing on from something that we started last year on the request of one of the trustees. I'd like to thank all the trustees for all the work that they've done. In this, I'll be doing two shows, one today and one next week at the same time. Given the nature of the subject, I'll be giving broad clarifications on the items that we discuss. If there's some specific matters to you that you wish to discuss, then you may reach me through my website, adamaccountingserviceslimited.com, or call me on 01908 692 380. There is a live chat, and feel free if you've got something you want to say, just send your messages through. Before going into specific matters relating to our subject today, I'd like to just put this short reminder for myself and and for all of you that the government help is there really for anyone who needs it. As such, if you don't qualify, then please don't lie or cheat to get that help. This is not why the help is there. And if you forcefully take today, remember, Allah can take back from you at another time, and it would be a miserable day if that day happens to be Judgment Day. Now, the update's going to be split between business and individuals. Some of the stuff that I discussed today may overlap between one and the other items. Today, we'll start with the business and see how far we get. Some of this will be a recap of things that we had discussed in the previous year, because the situation has persisted, specifically the coronavirus situation. So let's dive straight in and let's discuss the business matters. So if you are a business owner and you own a commercial property, so a shop front or a warehouse, that you're currently letting and paying council tax on, then if you have not already, asked for help, but still need help, know that there is still some help available from the government, from your local councils. These helps take different forms. So one of the helps that comes from, the Chancellor side, the council taxes have generally speaking for businesses have been frozen. So there's been no council tax payable since last year, and the situation will continue for a few more months in that front. But as we return slowly back to trading conditions that are favorable, then it is likely that those things will cease. In addition, the local councils, last year, they were initiated to give grants up to £10,000 for anyone paying business rates. That situation is still there, but the amount of help available is a lot less than previous assistance that the government has provided. And also they've kind of tightened down the measure. And this will be a running theme of something that we will discuss today and next week, that the government has assessed, what help it has provided and how that help has been received, and whether, all the help that it's given has been used for the purpose by the people for whom it was intended or is being misused. So for this assistance from your local council at the moment, the grants, you do need to have some sort of profit and loss account to show to them what your current business trading condition is and whether you qualify or you don't qualify, or your needs require you to get these funding from the local council. There is more help this year than in last year because we've seen certain sectors have more problems than others. So just adding to something I've just said earlier, business rates holiday extended until 30 June 2021, and with regards to the hospitality sector, there will be no payment until end of June, with extension and further relief available for another 9 months. There are other schemes that are new to this year. It's really just to support those businesses that have survived. And alhamdulillah, from looking at records at Companies House, quite a lot of businesses have fared out the situation. Clearly, without Allah's help and these government sponsored schemes, would have been a very difficult and travesty, would have occurred throughout the economy with mass unemployment had the situation been without these supports. So that is a specific funding for businesses with shop fronts and things. Now we're just going to go in. There is a specific grant available, just started this year, for the hospitality, leisure, and accommodation sector, as well as retail. It's called the Restart Grant Scheme. The government is funding it by giving about £5 billion nationally. So for non-essential expenses, you can get help up to £6,000, and some other facilities such as the gyms and things, depending on their needs, they could get grants of up to £18,000 to support their business. Now, this is new for this year because it has become very apparent that businesses operating in sectors where footfall is required, people are coming in and out, and it's not run very. It has struggled. I'm just going to move on from those specific grants and just discuss other things which are useful for businesses if they need them. So if you're facing cash flow issues, if you have not already accessed the business interruption loan, then it's something, if your business needs, then you should consider visiting this. This was initially, this was available from last year, and it is continuing this year. The terms and conditions have been revised a little bit to make it a bit more favorable. So now you can have loans which last a longer period than the original terms, from 6 years to 10 years. And only consider taking this option out if you really are struggling. There are other schemes available as well, not just the business interruption loan. There's also the recovery loan scheme, where businesses can get up to from £25,000 to £10 million with. So this is also another loan if your business needs it. I mean, personally, I would say just take a loan out as a last resort. If you cannot source other capital into your business or restructure the business in a way that doesn't require additional external funding, then please go and explore the option. On a side note, because it's fi dunya fil akhirah, we're looking at both this world and the next world. If as a practice, it's highly recommended from our teachers that read Surah Waqia often, especially after Asr, and also remembering Allah's names. Certain names of Allah have the blessings of enhancing risk and things, such as Al-Razak, Al-Manan, Al-Ghani, remember these names often, so if you remember Allah much, then inshallah, He will take care of your needs one way or another. Just moving along from this point, something just mentioned a few minutes ago, the government is tightening up on fraudulent claims on all levels, individuals and businesses. So they have in the recent budget announced, enhancing the powers as well as resources to HMRC to be able to enforce, more compliance, and that the incidences of fraud to be reduced as much as possible. So from that, we're just going to discuss a few other business specific matters here. So last year, the government had announced a VAT payment deferral for the period of April to June, and they had given until March 21 to pay. But not sure how many have taken up this option. But if you had not paid that payment by March 21, the government had announced that you could have another further 6 months to make that payment, but you should have made your application before the end of March. And it may still be possible. You may have a viable excuse why you had not made the claim in by the end of March. So it's still worth considering if you're having cash flow problems. Other VAT points to mention is that the registration level has remained unchanged at £85,000, and that there's a temporary reduced rate of VAT that applies to tourism and hospitality sector. Again, just to encourage spending in those sectors, something that started back in August, but has continued. There are other changes that may come in due course, but not through the recent announcement, which is as a result of leaving Europe. So that's another big change from this time last year. The other significant business taxes worth mentioning, and something from a planning point of view, is to do with the whole coronavirus job retention scheme. That has continued, surprisingly. So it was extended a few times last year, and then finally it's now been decided that it will continue until September. But the shape and form is slightly different from what you're used to previously. So now there could be incidences where people are joining in the scheme for the first time now, not that the eligibility was that you needed to be in the employment sometime last year in February, March. And that as we move along, the amount of salary that needs to be covered by the employer is expected to go up. So from July, if you have employees in the scheme, employers are expected to pay 10% into the contribution, and in August until September it will be 20%. Just some helpful reminders for the coronavirus job retention scheme, that the claims are on the basis of employees that are on your books, and that it is expected that you would pay the salary that you are, for which you're claiming payment from the government. Again, something that's different from last year is that now they publish the names of companies on HMRC's website, along with the amounts of money that they have taken. And again, a related point to the one earlier, there is a task force that is investigating, fraudulent claims. It's a running theme of today, but it's also a running theme from the government. Just remembered a very useful point. We are taught an axiom when we are young that there's only two things that are certain: death and taxes. As we can see from what's happened recently, the government's subsidizing everybody, either through companies or through individual changes in their payroll. So the only thing that is certain is death, and that with respect to these fraud incidences, and linking it back to this point on death, is that if we have done wrong accidentally, then we should correct it. And even with the coronavirus job retention scheme, if you have miscalculated, there is an option and opportunity to rectify it. But remember, if you don't rectify it and you've done it deliberately, then, they have powers to come back and assess your records and make you pay. Yeah, just a point there. Other matters, just from a business point of view, from a planning, if is that corporation tax rates are likely to jump up to 25% in the next sort of 2 years, and this is just one of the ways the government is trying to recover money. Given that in their budget they've decided to freeze fuel duty, and more or less other taxes have remained the same. So this is one way that they are expecting to recover money. But I mean, if we are making more profit, then you pay a bit more tax. So that's there. There's also some changes regarding the losses that businesses make and how far you can claim those monies. So in the past, it was limited to just a year or two. But right now, what the government has done, given the recognition of the devastation that we have experienced through the coronavirus problems, they've allowed, pretty much a limitless amount of loss to be carried back for a few years. The specifics of this, it's better you consult someone like myself to determine whether, if you are closing your company, what is the process and how do you recover these losses in the form of tax rebate. And remember, if you've never made any profit in the past, you won't get any rebates. This is rebate only works if you have paid some tax in the past. Now, if you've made a severe loss, then you get some kind of rebate to help you offset that. One other significant area in the business section is to discuss around capital allowances. So this is when the government gives you a tax relief for investing in plant machinery equipment. It could be some sort of infrastructure as well. So it has remained static over the last few years at about £200,000 per tax year. But now this has jumped up to about £1 million until the end of this year. So if you had put off investment in the last few months, this is a good time to potentially use that money and claim this tax relief, because from January onwards, at the moment, as it's expected, then we'll go back into the following year, next year, back down to £200,000. So it's like a cliff edge where, we're going up, and then suddenly straight down. There's also a one-off assistance for this year. There's something called a super deduction. So for some types of equipment expenditure, you would get 130% deduction. So if you spend £1,000, you get £1,300 worth of deduction in your tax return. This is, again, just to encourage certain critical infrastructure investments. But, for our small businesses, this might just be certain kinds of equipment that you can spend money on and you'll get this deduction. Again, specifics, if you require, it would be helpful just to discuss with someone who deals with this on day in, day out basis. And just lastly, before we wrap up, company car benefits are set to increase by 1% this year and will continue again next year. And if you have an electric vehicle, then there is no income tax in NI. So it's just something useful for planning if you're thinking of replacing your cars going forward. So those are tax specific matters, but there is something that's worth considering for someone who's about to start something new. This is something that was frozen since 2012, but it's come back again. So the government has designated certain areas as free ports. Unfortunately, Milton Keynes is not one of them, but East Midlands Airport, Felixstowe, Harwich, Humber, Liverpool, Plymouth, South Devon, Solent, Teesside, and Thames. If these are areas that you may consider investing, you just need to know that it's very favorable at the moment to get into these areas to do your business development. You'll get considerable relief, such as 10% structured business allowance, 100% capital allowance on plant and machinery, relief from stamp duty, and also potentially some relief from employer NI. So I hope the summaries that I've provided today are helpful to small business owners in terms of making their plans. We shall, inshallah, continue next week. And what we'll do is we'll talk specifically about the individuals and the various tax reliefs and tax planning matters. I hope you enjoyed the show. I wish you a blessed month. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.
The Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever stood for the prayers in the night of Qadr out of sincere faith and hoping for a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all his previous sins will be forgiven. Whoever fasted the month of Ramadan out of sincere faith and hoping for a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all his past sins will be forgiven." Bukhari.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
إذا السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتثرت وإذا البحار فجرت وإذا القبور بعثرت علمت